Welcome to our CI Distinguished Speaker Series. Today it is an honor to have Dr. Manzella to have an interview with us, and we will move on with the first question. Your expertise covers the important aspect of collecting data regarding the issues of food scarcity around the world. Could you please share what the current global or regional status of food scarcity is, primary causes of food security, and how it has evolved over the past few years?
Thank you. First of all, it's an honor for me to be part of this interview. I'm glad to answer this very important question. So essentially, when we look at food security, we look at availability of food. We look at availability of healthy food on a global scale. Certainly, some leading countries over the last 20 to 30 years have made giant steps to reduce food insecurities in their own countries, and as a result, because of the magnitude of those countries on a global scale. So certainly we have seen a sharp decline in the number of food insecure people on Earth for quite some years. Unfortunately, our latest data at FAO confirm that the trend is going upwards again. And essentially, this is due to many reasons. I wanna refer to two that I believe are probably the most significant ones. The first is, of course, global insecurity. More and more wars that obviously produce more and more food insecure people, displaced people that essentially not only have to leave their homes, but that also have to essentially look for food elsewhere. The other reason, and I'm sure you have heard a lot about this, especially this week, where the COP, the Conference of the Parties of the UNFCCC is taking place, is climate change. Climate change is essentially reducing the quantity of arable land on a global scale. And if you couple this with the rising population, different projections about the actual sort of level of sort of rise in global population, but nobody disputes that there will be more and more people on Earth. So imagine more and more people, less in arable land, more drought, less availability of water and other important agricultural inputs on a global scale. This creates food insecurity. So these are the two of the main drivers of, unfortunately, and again, rising number of food insecure people on a global scale.
Well, thank you for your response. Then, how does food scarcity impact local communities, both in terms of health and overall well-being of the citizens?
It impacts them very, of course, negatively. It goes without saying. Now there's, at the UN level, I'll give you this example, there is this new concept of One Health. What does One Health means? It essentially means human health and environmental health combined. So essentially, there's no human health if there's no environmental health. And obviously, being, of course, agricultural systems an important part of the complex web, of the complex sort of natural web, of course. Food is essential to essentially to guarantee human health, but it's also, if you look at agriculture as a whole, it's an essential component of environmental health. Years ago, FAO promoted this concept, doing more with less. Doing more with less means essentially using our natural resources in a more efficient way in order to produce more food. And producing more and more and healthier food means also better human health. So it's a very intricate web, but in the end it all comes together. So I would don't want to ask. I don't know. I don't want to ask myself a question because you're the one asking the questions. But essentially, I remember some time ago, a student asked me, "What is the main goal of agriculture?" And I'm sure that for many years we would have all have answered, "It's food. It's food production." Well, it's not food production. It's not just food production anymore. It's food production, it's environmental health, it's adaptation to climate change. So essentially important trade-offs that are to be made in order to pursue One Health.
Then with the acknowledgement of significance in One Health, how do government policies, both domestic and international, influence the prevalence of food scarcity?
Well, certainly I cannot point out to one policy because essentially as much as I refer to sort of trade-offs, right, in my brief illustration of what One Health means, I would say that similar trade-offs, probably more complex trade-offs, are also to be made by government in setting forth their national policies. So essentially, again, precisely why agriculture has to pursue multiple goals. I would say the agricultural policies have also to pursue multiple goals. And environmental policies have to pursue multiple goals. And human health policies have to pursue multiple goals. So essentially we're looking at a very sort of complex web. Certainly what is extremely important is that governments make their own choice based on their national priorities, as much as possible keeping in sight global priorities as well, and also trying to retrieve as many data as possible in order to constantly update these policies. Climate change, referred again to this concept, as one essential component. There is climate and there is also change. Change means that we also need, that governments constantly need new data to inform their policies, to measure the effectiveness of the existing policies, and make the necessary corrections. So data. Trade-offs.
Then in that case, what are the anticipated future trends in food scarcity, and how can we prepare for and mitigate potential challenges?
Well, here again, I'm especially for the sector that I work for, which is food produced from plants and preserving and using in a sustainable manner the genetic diversity that is essential to produce food from plants. I think an essential component is multilateral cooperation. Is really looking at joint collective action. Governments, of course, are responsible for their domestic territories, but if we look at global issues, global action must also be taken. Essentially, so essentially, I cannot emphasize enough the value of multilateral cooperation, the value of setting joint global targets and then spurring collective action in order to meet those global targets. We know that food insecurity is going to strike certain regions of the world in a particularly sort of hard way. Sub-Saharan Africa is a glaring example of this. So we must be prepared. We must be prepared to take corrective action, and we also must be prepared to adapt local agricultural systems. And again, this is certainly something that requires international support, as much as other problems in other parts of the world can only be solved through international cooperation.
Yep. Well, thank you for your time, and again, it was an honor to have your words shared with our CI community.
It was a pleasure. Thanks to you.
Thank you.